Good afternoon. It's the latest escalation in the trade war between Canada and the U.S. President Donald Trump is set to impose 50% tariffs on a variety of Canadian products. Trump says the reason behind the tariffs is what he calls Canada's unfair treatment of the U.S., including bans on American alcohol, limits on U.S. car exports to Canada, as well as Canada's protected dairy sector. Yesterday, Trump signed orders under Section 338 of the Tariff Act of 1930, imposing 50% tariffs on a long list of Canadian goods. They include milk products, alcohol, plywood, hockey sticks, flowers and bulbs, clothing, and paper products. The law Trump is using is considered to be a stronger law than previously ones that he's used, which were later struck down by the U.S. Supreme Court. Trade experts warn that any new tariffs would put additional pressure on both the government and Canadian businesses. Prime Minister Mark Carney commented on the situation this morning.
I spoke with President Trump earlier this morning. We agreed to intensify negotiations in the coming weeks, and the team and myself look forward to doing that. As always, Canadians, governments, business, labor will stand together to build Canada strong and to have a trading relationship with our North American partners that benefits everyone.
And CTV's Mike Ligatura has been following the escalating trade war and joins us from Ottawa with more. Mike, this seems to almost come out of nowhere. Why did Trump decide to impose these new tariffs now?
Yeah, he continues to say that he's justified in doing this. Now, a U.S. official who briefed reporters yesterday, senior official with their administration, basically sketched out those reasons that you had given earlier about why they feel this is the time right now. Canada responding to their trade actions when all of this began, when President Donald Trump took office. And it's essentially the tit-for-tat going back and forth now, and they believe that they are justified in doing this, saying that China and Canada were the only two countries that responded back with reciprocal tariffs, and they believe that they are getting a raw deal for the United States. Now, underscoring that was President Trump himself, who was meeting with the head of Lebanon today in the Oval Office, and he was asked specifically about these tariffs. Have a listen to his explanation here.
Canada's been very, very tough on us over the years, for many years, and no other president's done anything about it. I love Canada. I love the people of Canada. Many friends that live in Canada, but their leadership, from Trudeau to the current leadership, I mean, in all fairness to them, they need us to survive. Without us, there's no way they can survive. So, but they've been very, very tough over a period of the last 50 years, actually.
So clearly in hearing there, even though he says that Canada does need the U.S. to survive, he says that Canada's also been very tough with them. So clearly the U.S. president trying to exert some pressure on Canada as those negotiations are expected to intensify, as Prime Minister Carney laid out earlier today.
You know, and Prime Minister Carney has indicated he considers the trade war a threat to Canadian sovereignty. So how's Ottawa trying to deal with this situation?
Yeah, really, and also he said earlier today and in a statement yesterday, while it is a threat to Canadian sovereignty, he will continue to stand up for Canadian workers, pointing out that over the last 18 months, Canada has put forth a number of proposals and propositions to try and come to a resolution on CUSMA, and he says that Canada will continue to do that. And you think, Nathan, that in the next 30 days, he's going to have all that pressure intensified to try and do something, to try and come to some sort of a resolution, not only to solve CUSMA and get to that point where Mexico is right now. They have their third meeting with the U.S. starting tomorrow. Jamieson Greer, the United States Trade Representative, going down to Mexico for those conversations. But Canada hasn't really had any of those formalized negotiations with the U.S., but you have to think that those are going to intensify. And certainly Dominic LeBlanc, the Canada-U.S. Trade Representative on this side of the border, he will likely be on the other side of the border in Washington, D.C. very soon.
All right, CTV's Mike Ligatura in Ottawa. Thank you.
Thank you.
Premier Doug Ford is speaking to the media in Prince Edward Island as he attends the Premier's meetings in Charlottetown. Let's listen in.
It sounds to me like the booze ban is not going to get lifted by Ontario without the tariffs being lifted on steel and autos.
That is correct, 100%. Again, we have to negotiate through strength, not weakness. And we need to throw everything on the table. But I want to emphasize one more time, it can't always be Ontario. It has to be a Team Canada approach. And that's my message to my great friends, my Premier friends, that we have to be united. As I always say, united we stand, divided we fall.
Who's not carrying their weight? Who's not carrying their weight? Who's not carrying their weight?
Who's not carrying their weight? It just seems like Ontario's always out there, no matter if it's electricity or if it's alcohol or anything else. In manufacturing, Ontario's getting hurt the most in these tariffs.
Well, it's because of
right
the
across
alcohol ban.
No, it's not because of the alcohol ban. This is a broader issue of tariffs right across the board. You know, he wants to continue threatening, and he's nothing but a bully. That's all he is. And you have to stand up to the bullies in the schoolyard, or they end up taking your lunch money. And we are going to continue. We are going to continue fighting like we've never fought before. I'm sorry, you go ahead.
This latest list,
yes.
What is the economic impact, the hit to Ontario, should this come into effect in 29 days? Have you quantified that? Can you articulate the impact?
What I understand, it's $28 billion across the country. Majority is going to be here in Ontario. That's why we can't roll over. We have to hit back. We have to, rather than be on our back heel, as I said, we have to go forward, take the offense. We are an energy powerhouse, and we could dismantle the U.S. if we wanted to, if we all work together. No matter if it's the electricity, and I'm not speaking for the other provinces, I'm going to be very clear. The potash, the oil, we're their #1 customer in the world. They need to feel the pain rather than us constantly feeling the pain. But thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
We'll never stop fighting for Canada. Thank you.
Don't
All right, that was Premier Doug Ford. He's at the Premier's meetings in Charlottetown, and he was there speaking to the media, responding to Trump's imposition of new tariffs that will take effect August 19th. Ford says, quote, we need to negotiate through strength, not weakness. So that would suggest he's got no plans to change his stance on counter tariffs. All right, we're going to, of course, continue to follow what happens there. Still to come, wildfires continue to burn across the country. We'll have the latest on the situation in Ontario and nationwide a little bit later in the newscast. But first, a 17-year-old boy is fighting for his life in hospital following a stabbing aboard a bus in Mississauga overnight. An 18-year-old woman was taken into custody at the scene. CP24's Steve Ryan's been following the investigation and joins us live with more. Steve.
Nathan, police responded early this morning, as you said, just before 2 o'clock near Hurontario and Wait Line regarding a stabbing on public transit. A female was taken into custody rather quickly. She's been held for a bail hearing, and the 17-year-old young man is fighting for his life in hospital. We did hear from Peel Police earlier today, and here's how they offered to describe what took place. Let's listen.
Today at approximately 1:50 a.m., our officers responded to reports of a stabbing in the area of Hurontario Street and Watline Avenue on board a transit bus in the city of Mississauga. Upon arrival, our officers located a 17-year-old male suffering from a stab wound. Our officers and emergency services provided immediate medical assistance to that male and transported him via ambulance to a local trauma center where he currently remains in critical condition.
The female was held for a bail hearing, Nathan, and she is facing serious criminal charges, including attempted murder, assault with a weapon, and obstructing police.
All right, CP24.
Isolated incident, by the way.
All right, thank you, Steve. CP24, Steve Ryan. Well, police are searching for 4 suspects after $30,000 worth of goods was stolen from a home in the Annex. Investigators are looking for 3 men and a woman and have released images of the suspects. Police say between June 16th and 18th, the suspects forced their way into a home near Spadina and DuPont several times. They made off with wine, spirits, artwork, and personal documents belonging to the homeowner. The items were loaded into a white rental van. Now, police are asking anybody with information to come forward. The Mayor's Executive Committee is meeting today discussing a number of issues. Now, a major focus is surveillance pricing at grocery stores, with the Mayor bringing forward a motion aimed at banning the practice. CTV's Beth McDonnell joins us live from City Hall with more details on this. Beth.
Yes, Nathan. Mayor Olivia Chow and Councillor Alejandro Bravo are bringing forward a motion to the Executive Committee today to ban surveillance pricing on essential groceries in Toronto. Surveillance pricing is a practice where companies are able to tap into consumers' personal information and charge them a different price based on what they know about you. Chow and Bravo say the practice is unfair and want to make life in the city more affordable. Chow says groceries are already 30% more than they were in 2020. Now, there are several moving parts to what's happening with this phenomenon at stores. There's AI and privacy laws to consider, and there is acknowledgement provincial and federal governments also have roles to play. This motion directs the city manager to examine all legal pathways within the city's legal authority to ban surveillance pricing on groceries both in-store and online.
The city can and will ban surveillance pricing in Toronto to stop price gouging at the grocery store, to protect people now before it's too late. The City of Toronto Act gives us the authority to regulate, to protect consumers and the economic well-being of our residents.
The mayor's office says the city already uses some of these powers in other areas. It requires some licensed businesses to clearly display prices, and it has rules around scalping on public streets and sidewalks. This motion is expected to be back at City Council in the first quarter of 2027. Reporting live at City Hall, I'm Beth McDonnell. Nathan, back to you.
All right, thank you, Beth. An advocacy group for people with disabilities is speaking out about an accessibility ramp at Finch West Station.
Imagine pushing a wheelchair using upper body strength to get up this ramp for at least 1 minute and 45 seconds. I hope you're in shape.
The Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act Alliance calls the nearly 80-meter-long ramp connecting Line 1 and Line 5 at Finch West Station the stupidest ramp in the world, while the station has elevators serving other lines. Now, the group says this ramp is the only option for transit riders with disabilities going between Line 1 and Line 5. They're blaming Metrolinx for the oversight. And Metrolinx released a statement which reads in part, Metrolinx is dedicated to building a transit system that is safe, accessible, and inclusive for all customers. Metrolinx consulted with TTC and the TTC's Advisory Committee on Accessible Transit with regards to the design of the connection between Line 1 and Line 6. Metrolinx is pursuing user testing with individuals representing a range of disabilities to better understand customer experiences. We continue to work closely with the TTC to ensure customers continue to have safe, convenient, and accessible access at all of the Line 5 and 6 stations. Pearson Airport has unveiled the second initiative in its long-term investment in facilities and terminals program. The program aims to revitalize both of the airport's terminals over the coming years. CTV's Rahim Ladani joins us live now from the airport with more. Rahim.
Hi, Nathan. You remember it was just a couple of months ago that Toronto Pearson International Airport broke ground on a multi-billion-dollar overhaul of the airport. And today officials announced another major investment, this time focusing on how travelers experience inside the terminal. And so this is phase 2 of the project, and they have awarded $1.5 billion worth of contracts to modernize Terminal 1 and 2. We're told that the upgrades will include larger passenger areas, redesigned check-in spaces, improved baggage handling, enhanced customs and security screenings, but details on what will actually change weren't given to us. Now, you may remember back in May, Pearson launched the first phase of its decade-long Pearson Lift program. That stands for long-term investment in facilities and terminals. That was a $3 billion investment which focused on runways, aircraft movement, and baggage systems. Together, the first 2 phases represent $4.5 billion in planned improvements as Pearson prepares to handle 65 million annual passengers by the early 2030s. Have a listen to what officials are saying.
This particular program is about reliability, it's about digital enablement and capacity at Pearson, providing more space, ease, fluid movement for passengers' journeys that are traveling outbound, as well as those that are journeying into inbound into Pearson as well.
It's going to be a series of manageable chunks of work that are going to be done and organized in such a way to minimize the pain that passengers are going to be experiencing, in a measured way as we go through this airport.
Now, as you heard right there are likely going to be some disruptions for passengers, but we couldn't get any details on when this construction will actually start or how long it's going to take. Reporting live, I'm Raheem Ladani. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Raheem. We have more news in a moment, but first to look at the forecast. Here's a live look at the city this afternoon. Clouds, a bit of rain this morning. Hopefully this clears up eventually, and hopefully we're not talking about smoke, just clouds. Let's bring in Lindsay Morrison with a look at how things are now. Hey, Lindsay.
Yeah, Nathan, it's shaping up to be a pretty active day overall. I'm going to step aside to show you that we are under a severe thunderstorm watch here in the city of Toronto, and that watch is widespread across the province. The areas that you see here in orange are under severe thunderstorm warnings, and I am a little bit concerned about some of these storms impacting areas like Hamilton, Burlington, Oakville, Waterdown, Dundas. There's a whole lot of lightning associated with this one and some very heavy downpours. Hail is a possibility. And not only that, I'll step aside here just so you can see, it looks as though something called training might happen here. And that's where one storm after another hits the same area. So just a heads up for the west end of the GTA right now. But essentially everywhere around the Golden Horseshoe, we need to be prepared for some active weather today. It is windy. We're experiencing gusts already in places close to 50 kilometers per hour. 23 degrees, feels more like 31 out there right now, so it is muggy. We're at a 4 on the Air Quality Health Index, so the low end of moderate, that air pollution not gone entirely, but today's active weather could help. Chance of showers, risk of thunderstorms, maybe severe in nature through the rest of this afternoon and early evening. 27 degrees likely to feel like 35, but we are in for a big cool down into the day tomorrow. So we'll talk about how and why your Wednesday might feel a little more like fall coming up. But for now, Nathan, back to you.
All right, thank you, Lindsay. The wildfires burning across the country are having a major impact on Canada's forestry sector. CTV's Alex Carpa has more on the threat facing Manitoba's logging industry.
So that is jack pine.
Grant Currian is looking over what he says is a dwindling supply of logs on his property. He's among Manitoba loggers worried about the long-term impact on the industry as wildfires rage across the country.
When you get a fire, you get a void in that inventory. So that means it's going to hit you, it's going to impact you down the road.
Currian says that impact is already being felt. Last year's wildfires burned nearly 9 million hectares across Canada, including 2.38 million hectares in Manitoba.
Supply has definitely dwindled. It is getting very concerning.
Canada's forest sector employs about 200,000 people and contributes more than $20 billion to the economy. Analysts say wildfires create a ripple effect across the industry by reducing the timber available for mills.
This is a seasonal thing where we get, the fires are around longer and longer as it goes, but the bigger problem is as the fires burn, that takes away more fiber for mills, and a lot of times you have to go back and salvage what you can.
The loss of timber also threatens jobs, particularly in rural and northern communities that rely on forestry. Experts fear an already active wildfire season could intensify.
It looks like a very active season. It's kind of reminiscent of 2024. Had a quiet start and then picked up, and that's exactly what 2026 is doing.
Despite the challenges, Currian says he'll do everything he can to keep his operation running.
The fires have gotten a lot worse.
Currian says provincial and federal governments should be investing more into wildfire prevention and suppression, saying stronger firefighting efforts are critical to protecting an industry that has become increasingly vulnerable. Alex Carpa, CTV News, Elma, Manitoba.
And hundreds of wildfires are burning in Ontario and across the country. There are currently 896 active wildfires in Canada, and that represents a drop of just over 40 compared to Monday. However, there is concern about the number of out-of-control wildfires. They're represented by red dots on this map, with the fires burning in 7 provinces and 2 territories. And CTV's Scott Hurst has been following the wildfire situation across the country and joins us with more. So, Scott, what else do you know about this nationwide problem?
Nathan, good afternoon. Our colleague Alex Carpa in that report really focusing in on the economic impact of wildfire season. But of course, there's also a very real and personal impact for many. lives and livelihoods currently upended by the ongoing wildfire threat. We've focused for many days now on the situation in northwestern Ontario, where evacuation orders and alert continue to be expanded over the past 24 hours. We heard as of late yesterday, according to the Premier, there are more than 1,800 wildfire evacuees from roughly 13 communities. But as you showed by the map and you pointed out, overall, there are just shy of 900 fires burning right across the country, and the flames have churned through a whole lot of land. Specifically, when we talked about Ontario's fire season, the 10-year average for Ontario's fire season is about 358 fires. So far this year, Nathan, there have been more than 560 fires burning through more than 7,200 square kilometers. But as you saw by the map, it's not just Ontario. We focus in on BC as well, where there are just shy of 90 active fires, with thousands of lightning strikes reported last week. Wildfire officials are reporting increased activity and are also concerned about the stretch of hot and dry weather that they are about to experience over the week ahead, Nathan.
And also, Scott, there has been talk about a national fire strategy. Is that going to happen?
There was talk about this from Ontario's Premier yesterday, hoping to bring this topic up once again at the meeting between the Premiers and the Prime Minister. It might be put aside because, of course, the latest tariff threat from U.S. President Donald Trump. But these are not new conversations, but they do come on the heels of a recently released Senate committee report that came out in June detailing the wildfire crisis and really demanding more action and much more coordination from the federal government with provincial, territorial partners, as well as more regional partners and First Nations as well. The report demanding more urgent action and coming out with 15 recommendations, some of them including a federal coordination office for wildfires and emergency response, along with a national fleet of firefighting aircraft and trained personnel that would be pre-positioned throughout the country, particularly during wildfire season. As the report is highlighting, fires are increasingly becoming a major economic, social, and public health challenge. We saw that here in the Greater Toronto Area with the wildfire smoke that wafted in and impacted millions more far away from the fires, impacting us here in Toronto late last week. And the report is calling that on the federal government for a much more coordinated effort on a much larger scale, Nathan.
All right, CTV's Scott Hurst in the CTV National Newsroom. Thank you.
Thanks, Nathan.
Well, Donald Trump insists his plan to impose a 50% tariff on multiple Canadian goods is not a result of the wildfire smoke drifting across the border. But the U.S. president said today it remains a big problem in his country.
A lot of damage has been done. They're not managing their forests properly, and the wind has a tendency to blow right over New York City, right over, you saw Detroit, they had to close the whole place. Michigan was really affected. They had to close businesses for 4 days. It's very serious what they're doing, and they don't seem to be able to do anything about it. If they managed their forests, they wouldn't have the fires.
The Gordie Howe International Bridge is set to open on Monday, according to Windsor's mayor. Now, Drew Dilkin says he's expecting a ribbon cutting on Friday, followed by an official opening on Monday. He says pedestrians and cyclists should be able to cross the bridge starting August 5th. The bridge opening has been delayed multiple times. Terms of the deal made between Canada and the U.S. to open the bridge have not been released. Prime Minister Mark Carney says any revenue sharing from bridge tolls will only happen after the construction debt is repaid, before being split with the U.S. for the first 15 years. Canada's premiers are meeting in Charlottetown this week, and the threat of new U.S. tariffs is expected to dominate discussion. CTV's Rachel Aiello's live in Charlottetown and joins us live with more on the meeting. Rachel, we've heard some of the premiers already this morning. What has there been reaction to this topic, I'm sure, the new tariff threat?
Yeah, absolutely, Nathan. I think it's fair to say that the initial agenda that they were supposed to be discussing here in Charlottetown has been torn up and thrown in the ocean, because really U.S. President Donald Trump's latest threat of 50% tariffs on a wide range of Canadian goods is certainly dominating the conversation here. We heard from a series of premiers this morning, including Saskatchewan's premier, Scott Moe, making it very clear that in his estimation, this is now prime time for the federal government to get to the negotiating table. They They have about 30 days before these new tariffs come into effect, and he wants to see the federal government leverage that time to try to negotiate with Trump and get to an overall agreement. And then, of course, a lot of the conversation has been around the booze bans. That's clearly been an irritant for the Americans, directly referenced in what the USTR put out yesterday. And so both BC Premier David Eby and Ontario Premier Doug Ford making it clear to reporters today they have no intention of backing off. They are not going to put American booze back on their shelves to appease the Americans over this. This is something they're saying they want to use as a leverage point, as a negotiating tactic going forward. Here's a bit more from Premier Ford on that.
We can't keep rolling over for President Trump. We can't back down. We need a full Team Canada approach. Everything is on the table, but Ontario can't do it alone. We need the support. We need a plan from the Prime Minister to come in, and if these talks fail in 29 days, we need to hit them back as hard as we can. I'm tired of the bully trying to take our lunch money all the time. We always seem to be on our back heels. We need to be on the offense.
Now, Rachel, the Prime Minister said to meet with the premiers later this week. What are we expecting to come out of those discussions?
Yeah, so clearly it's going to be a conversation focused on the Canadian response to these tariffs, what happens next. I can tell you that premiers are going to be meeting virtually later this afternoon with the Prime Minister to kind of set the level, get the sense of what exactly the Americans are doing here, what the direct financial impact could be on the provinces. And then from there, I think we'll see them calibrate their response, which I do imagine we would get some more details on when the Prime Minister comes down here to Charlottetown on Thursday. I think it's going to be interesting to see what kind of pressure he is under from the premiers, or if Trump proves to be a uniting factor yet again. You know, you've had the pressure on the Prime Minister to try to get a deal. We heard that clearly from Premier Moe. The Prime Minister coming out today, making it very clear that he has agreed with Trump in their conversation earlier today to accelerate negotiations over the next couple of weeks. So it's going to be a heightened time, and premiers are going to be wanting to use that direct FaceTime with the Prime Minister to make the case for their province. I'm thinking about Quebec and the need to continually defend supply management, for example, try to get a sense of where the Prime Minister wants them to go on the booze bans. What we've got so far from Carney is that he views that they should stay in place until there is a broader deal. So while it's ultimately up to each premier to decide how they want to handle American booze on their shelves, Carney's advice seems to be, let's keep that leverage there until we have a bigger deal in place, Nathan.
And Rachel, if they retrieve the agenda that was thrown into the ocean and they look at it, I mean, what else is on there that they might discuss?
Absolutely. So today, as we're speaking, just over my shoulder, they are having a conversation with Indigenous leaders. Tomorrow is going to be when you see premiers sit down all together behind closed doors. Among the things they wanted to discuss, federal health care transfers, wildfire responses, needing to unite around issues of public safety. Of course, in Ontario, we've seen a number of incidents with police. I know Ford wanted to put that on the agenda. Broader conversation, and we're watching for some potential developments around interprovincial trade. A lot of talk about freeing up booze within this country, let alone dealing with the Americans. So that'll be part of the conversation. Of course, other international trade deals where they can leverage to promote their products outside of the United States. So those are some of the issues that they're hoping to still talk about. We'll see, obviously, how much of that they are able to do, but certainly a lot can be done away from that big table and on the sidelines of meetings like this one.
All right, those bilateral meetings. All right, CTV's Rachel Aiello in Charlottetown. Thank you.
Thank you.
In Washington, U.S. President Donald Trump said this morning that Iran hasn't seen anything yet.
If we left right now, it would take Iran 20, 25 years to rebuild. Okay? And we're not finished at all. But if we left right now, it would take them a long time, years to rebuild. But we're not leaving right now.
Both sides continue to exchange fire, with the U.S. striking Iran and the Iranians attacking American allies in the region. Today, Trump said the U.S. will soon hit the Piquet Mountain area, located near a heavily damaged uranium enrichment facility. The Pickaxe site is linked to Tehran's nuclear program. And Trump spoke during an Oval Office meeting with his Lebanese counterpart. The U.S. president told his guests that he'll speak to Hezbollah if Lebanon wants him to. The Lebanese leader is expected to present a plan on how to disarm the Iran-backed militant group and secure Israel's withdrawal from Lebanon. It's the first visit to the White House by a Lebanese head of state in nearly 20 years. Well, the odds of it happening are 1 in 15 million pregnancies. An Australian woman has given birth to identical quadruplets. The pregnancy was extremely high risk, but Emily, Harriet, Alexa, and Catherine were born at a hospital in Brisbane on July 14th through elective cesarean. Doctors say the baby's long-term outlook is really good, and they're expected to stay in the neonatal intensive care unit for several weeks. Their parents already have 4 kids, 10, 8, and 3, and 1-year-olds. The family has set up a GoFundMe campaign to help them financially. I'm sure they'll need it. Lindsay.
Well, as we make our way through the rest of the day today, we are talking about the risk of severe thunderstorms. So what exactly does that mean, severe? This is some of the criteria. And today, what we are particularly concerned about is heavy rain, especially for areas that get multiple rounds of storms today. 50 millimeters or more is possible, along with some very strong winds. That risk of storms, as mentioned, continues into this evening. Tomorrow, it is much drier, but it's going to be cooler, especially with these winds changing direction. They're out of the southwest right now, but it is going to be a brisk northwesterly wind tomorrow. Coming up, we'll talk about just how chilly it could be tomorrow dayside and even into Thursday morning. That's after the break here on CTV News at noon.
When you see it happen, send it to CTV News. Text 10400 from your screen to ours. Text 10400.
All right, let's talk about the forecast. A little muggy out there, and I guess I'm delusional. I'm thinking, oh, this is going to clear really soon, but I guess it's going to be here for a little bit.
Well, okay, the active weather is going to be here for the afternoon, probably the early evening too. And you mentioned smoke, and it's relevant because, of course, we know we've had plenty of it. Hopefully today is another one of those days where the active weather does improve the air quality. Into tomorrow, there should be a further improvement. Lots of sunshine expected for your Wednesday as well, but it's going to be a little bit cool, so I don't want to get too ahead of myself. There's lots to talk about tomorrow's weather, but let's bring you up to speed on the thunderstorms as well. Weather is brought to you by the Presler Law Firm Injury Lawyers. You don't pay unless they win. This is what it looked like early today in many different parts of the GTA, but this video specifically from the Oshawa area. Not only did we have heavy downpours, but we had thunder and lightning. Did it wake you up too? Mother Nature's alarm clock is what I like to call that. And then ever since, we've had breaks in the precip, even a little bit of clearing in some areas, but it's interesting with a setup like this. If you get a bit of clearing and a little bit of sun, that can fool you into thinking that, oh, we're now in the clear, it's going to be dry the rest of the day. Not on a day like this. A bit of additional sun can actually fuel the development of further thunderstorms. So we've got a frontal boundary moving through, and we have a cold front that's going to be impacting us through tonight, the evening hours anyway. So might see some storms along that, and then behind it, the colder air moves in. Widespread severe thunderstorm watch, that's for the areas in yellow that you see here, including the city of Toronto. We do have a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings. Those are for the communities that you see there in orange. I am happy to report that the severe thunderstorm warning has come to an end for the Oakville and Burlington area. However, heavy rain continues to soak that part of the GTA, and we are now back into some rain downtown Toronto. Lots of lightning associated with the storms in this part of the province also. I'm watching a couple of cells make their way off of Lake Huron, some streamers off of Georgian Bay, and again, it's pretty active in parts of the Kawarthas at this hour too. Big picture look at what's been happening. Yesterday's rain, same system in northwestern Ontario. I think that was very helpful for those battling the wildfires. For us, again, might help clear the air. There's already been significant rainfall in many areas. Some areas could see an additional 15 to 30 millimeters of rain before all is said and done. And earlier I mentioned training, and that's where the same areas tend to get hit by storms over and over again. Those are the areas that we're concerned about, maybe 50 millimeters of rain today or more, and that includes parts of the GTA. There's tomorrow morning, still some spotty showers and some cloud cover. It is going to clear out, but we are going to have a strong northwesterly wind tomorrow. So even though it's going to be sunny for the afternoon and sunny into the day on Thursday, Thursday. It's also going to be a little cool. Drifting smoke, again, a bit of a story, but I do see improvement when it comes to the air quality for tomorrow and into the day Thursday also. Temperature-wise, 22 degrees, feels more like 30 this hour at Pearson Airport. 27 degrees is our expected high, feeling like 35. Tonight, we're looking to dip into the teens for an overnight low, unlike last night when we stayed at 20 degrees or above, so that makes it 12 nights so far this season. And then tomorrow's highs, barely making it into the 20s in some cases. We might struggle to make it to a high of 22 degrees in Toronto. So it is going to bring a fresher feel, that's for sure. And then Thursday morning, chilly also. Temperature maybe around 14 degrees. We're back to seasonal and back into sunshine Thursday, and certainly warmer on Friday. The weekend looks to be warm too, with a chance of showers, especially on Sunday. That's the weather for now. Nathan, back to you.
All right. Thank you, Lindsay. Cats and dogs rescued from Ontario communities impacted by northern wildfires are being brought to foster homes in southern Ontario. CTV's Alexandra Holick has more on those who are caring for the cats and dogs.
Hi, babies. For this brother-sister dog duo, the road to safety was a long one. Ross and S'mores arrived in Guelph Saturday from a reserve in northern Ontario, their community one of dozens devastated by wildfires, forcing families to flee and in some cases leave their four-legged friends behind.
About 21 or 20 rescues across southern Ontario. Took in 112 animals in total.
Safe Paws Animal Rescue is part of a network of organizations giving cats and dogs from the north a second leash on life.
It really ranges what state they're in. We're expecting pregnant dogs, moms with puppies, young puppies, teenager puppies, adults, seniors.
Part of the rescue mission is to offer temporary reprieve, placing the pets with foster families until it's safe to return home.
There's the other branch of it where there's the animals that are being officially fully surrendered by their families for various reasons, as well as the stray animals.
Vet teams are also on the ground in northern communities to microchip and vaccinate animals.
So that they're safe, so that if we move them to another humane society or a veterinary clinic, a boarding facility, anything like that, that they're well protected.
Protection extends beyond evacuation. Stacey Murphy is a registered vet tech with the Kitchener-Waterloo Humane Society. She says smoke inhalation from the wildfires is just as bad for pets as it is for humans.
If the air is not good for you to be breathing, it's not good for your animal either.
Urging pet owners to take precautions, especially during air quality warnings.
You know, if we're going outside with them, it's for short walks to come back inside pretty quickly, monitoring them for signs of respiratory distress and taking them to the vet if something seems out of sorts.
Hi, babies. In the meantime, while the smoky skies may have blown over in southern Ontario, a reminder of the raging wildfires lingers, knowing that many lives, including Ross and S'mores, have been forever changed. Alexandra Holick, CTV News.
Still to come, the Jays will try to end a two-game losing skid tonight as they continue to fall out of playoff contention. Details when we come back. The Blue Jays continue to tumble further out of playoff contention and now sit 8 games below 500.
The 2-2. And through the right side, a base hit.
Alejandro Kirk drove in a run for the Jays in the 4th inning last night, but that would be all the offense the team could muster. They ended up losing the game 7-1 to the Rays. The Jays now sit 5.5 games back of the final wild card spot. Kevin Gausman is set to start for the team tonight with first pitch set for 7:07 at Rogers Centre. The Tempo were hoping to head into the WNBA's All-Star break on a winning note when they hosted the Las Vegas Aces last night.
Trying to get some quick rotations. Harrison, fade away.
Isabel Harrison scored 26 points for the Tempo, but the team ended up losing the game 109-83. The Tempo return to action July 28th when they take on the Minnesota Lynx. Meanwhile, Marina Mabrey, the Tempo's first ever All-Star selection, will represent the team in the WNBA's All-Star game in Chicago on Saturday. A record number of Canadians tuned in to watch the FIFA World Cup.
Lamine Yamal, Pedro Porro, Williams, and thundered in for Spain by Ferran Torres!
TSN says there were more than 30 million unique viewers, which works out to roughly 75% of Canada's population. 6.4 million viewers tuned in on Sunday to watch Spain beat Argentina, making it the most watched World Cup final ever in Canada. The tournament attracted a per-game average audience of 1.6 million viewers, up more than 50% from 2022. Both TSN and CTV are divisions of Bell Media. Still to come, the Toronto International Film Festival has unveiled the majority of the lineup for its 51st edition. We'll have more on what's set to be screened when we come back. Toronto and the GTA are seeing a significant expansion in data center construction to meet the growing demands of artificial intelligence. Advocates say the centers will support substantial economic development. However, critics are concerned about the long-term strain on Ontario's electricity supply. Daniel Wigdor, a U of T professor and CEO of AI venture studio AXL, is among more than 200 economists and Nobel laureates who signed an open letter this week urging leaders to act now to manage the economic impact of artificial intelligence.
Oftentimes, the people who are building these things are asking for tax subsidies. And so that's a potentially very high cost. And I think the question we need to be asking is not so much what is the job that's going to be done by a person to build the data center, because that's a relatively short-term proposition, and it's not what is the job that's going to be done by the people running the data centers, because these are largely automatic things that don't require a lot of people. But who are the people who are going to be really benefiting? Who are building the companies that are going to be using these data centers? And what have we done to ensure that that real benefit is going to be accruing to the local community and to Canada? And right now, I haven't seen a lot of evidence that we're ensuring that that's happening.
City councillors in Hamilton recently voted down a temporary pause on new data centers, which had been considered as a possible model for other municipalities. The Toronto International Film Festival's unveiled the majority of the lineup for its 51st edition. It will feature world premieres from Chris Rock's drama Misty Green, as well as Peter Farrelly's Sylvester Stallone film I Play Rocky. More than 60 films will play in the festival's gala and special presentation sections. Organizers previously announced that Being Human, a film about late disability rights activist Judith Human, would open this year's festival. TIFF runs from September 10th to the 20th. Coming up, getting a first-hand look at what things are like down on the farm. We'll have more on a group of farmers in southwestern Ontario set to show off the operations to the public when we come back. Farmers in southwestern Ontario are set to open up their operations to the public this weekend. It's part of an annual tradition to give people a behind-the-scenes look at how food ends up on their tables. CTV's Scott Miller has the story.
Nearly 30 years ago, Joe and Barb Terpstra started milking cows near Brussels.
In 1997, we started with about 100 cows, and after that, we built a barn, went up to 300 cows. And then this latest build has allowed us to go to 400.
This Saturday, the Terpstras open up their dairy operation to the public for the 29th edition of Breakfast on the Farm, a farm and food care initiative to bring consumers up close and personal to the farms that produce some of the food they find at the grocery store.
We want people to come in and see how we look after our animals, and that more confident in the product that we're making.
58,000 people have visited an Ontario farm during the 28 previous Breakfast on the Farms, which were designed in 2013 to bridge a growing divide between food consumers, making up the majority of the population, and food producers, making up a minute fraction of Ontarians.
When somebody goes to the grocery store, there's a lot of choices, and we're wanting people to make a local choice and see the whole foods and the foods that are good for them, and produced on local farms.
A big part of the Terpstra's 1,200-acre operation, which produces 14,000 liters of milk a day, burned to the ground just 3 years ago. So sharing their newly constructed milking parlor and third-generation farm with the public means a bit more than it might have before the blaze.
We have 3 of our 4 children working here on the farm, and it's really put a spark into us. We had a fire 3 years ago, and we've rebuilt, and which brought our children home. And it's very special to be able to work side by side with our kids.
There's already been 800 tickets pre-sold to Saturday's breakfast on the farm here near Brussels. The Terpsters say there is plenty of room for more visitors to their farm.
There's going to be lots of animals, not just cows. There's going to be sheep and lambs. We have pigs, water buffalo, beef cows.
Near Brussels, Scott Miller, CTV News.
Well, if you're a farmer or if you got a backyard, this is good news, all this rain.
Yeah, we could use a little bit of it. Of course, on a day like today, you might get a whole lot of rain, maybe all at once. And once again, we find ourselves under a severe thunderstorm warning in cities like Hamilton, Burlington, Oakville, and now Mississauga. You are included in the severe thunderstorm warning, so just a heads up there. This is what it looks like on the satellite and radar. It's back-timed a little bit. This is the most recent frame right there. So thunder, lightning, heavy downpours, and strong winds, all part of the weather story for this afternoon and early evening. Tonight, we're going to drop into the teens for a temperature. Haven't had as many of those as normal. It's been quite warm through the overnight hours at times so far this summer. Tomorrow, though, this is a cooler day for this point in July, 22 degrees, feeling more like 27. And you know what? We might even struggle to get there. Some communities will likely stay in the teens tomorrow, especially in parts of cottage country. We are back to seasonal and back into the sunshine for the end of the week, Nathan.
All right, thank you, Lindsay. And that's it for CTV News at noon. Remember, you can get Toronto's breaking news all day long on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca. For Lindsay and all of us here, have a great day. I'm Nathan Downer. Be sure to join us later for CTV News at 5 and 6. Take care.